Hey Droid Watchers, I'm Lauren Kate. Thank you guys so much for reading. I hope you enjoy the books. Fallen was inspired by a line in Genesis, Genesis 6, 1 through 4, which talks about a group of angels who looked down from heaven and saw mortal women on the earth and thought that they were beautiful. And scholars say this line and a couple other in the Bible suggests this moment of attraction, the reason the angels were kicked out of heaven. And when I heard that, I thought, if these angels had to sacrifice everything about their identity in the world, their role as angels, everything about who they are and what they can do, all for love, it was a very, very powerful sacrifice. And I wanted to understand what kind of a girl, what kind of a woman might make that sacrifice worth it. So that led me to Lucinda, to her long history of reincarnation and the curse hanging over her head. And eventually that led me to researching angelology and understanding who the other angels were in the series and what kind of relationship they needed to have with Luce. Initially, I was really upset by how much I did not know angels and how much there was. And every new text I turned to, I found a piece of information that conflicted with something I had already established one book ago or 10 pages ago. It was a really overwhelming kind of research to do. But I had a scholar that I was working with and who was helping me with some of the research. And at one point I turned to her and I said, what do I do with all this conflicting information? How do I find the right answer? How do I find the truth of these angels? And she laughed at me and she said, what do you think Milton did? You pick your favorite and you don't look back. So I realized then that I was making my own truth. I was making my own mythology. My love of stories is as deeply ingrained in me as anything is. It comes from my parents, I think. My mother is a teacher. I spent a lot of time growing up in libraries, kind of hiding in a corner, reading as many books as I could. My dad used to read aloud to my brother and I every night. And so I think those two things planted the seeds of storytelling in my mind from a very early age, and it's just always been something that I've done. I've always been a reader. I've always longed to escape from my own reality and into something more fascinating, and that's what books give me, and that's what compels me to write books. I hope I write the kind of books that other people can pick up and escape into. The movie plans for Fallen are coming along. It's been really exciting recently to see some of the steps that we've been taking. We have a script that's basically ready to go. We have a director. We're moving into the casting very soon, and I can't wait to share the movie with the readers. You know, writing the Fallen series, Lucinda's character, she is actually named after a singer-songwriter named Lucinda Williams. And so I listened to a lot of Lucinda Williams as I was writing these books. I actually got the chance to meet her about a year ago, and there's a paragraph in Fallen where Luce, the character, talks about how she was named after Luce, the singer-songwriter, and I flagged the page and I showed it to Lucinda Williams, and I was very embarrassed, very nervous. I thought she was going to think I was crazy, but she stopped and she took the page and she read it aloud and sort of became Lucinda Price for a moment. She entered Lucinda's voice, and it was this incredible experience for me to get to see the Luce that had inspired me become, for a moment, inspired by the Luce in the books. I thought I was developing it before I was writing. I did make sort of meticulous outlines and plans for the entire series, but inevitably when I sat down to write it, resist me over and over again. I would think they were going to turn left and they would turn right, and pretty quickly I learned to follow them and go down whatever roads they wanted to go down, and most of the time they ended up in more interesting places than I could have imagined they would have. I've loved different characters in each of the books. The bad guy, Cam, is based on my husband, so I didn't intend this to happen, but it's sort of inevitable that I would have fallen in love with him from the beginning, and that really shaped the role that he had as a bad guy. He couldn't just be evil. He had to be much more complex and have a backstory that led him toward his darkness. And so that was a really interesting thing to uncover. And Cam continues to be probably the character who fascinates me the most. Thank you very much for reading Fallen. And the fourth book, Rapture, has just come out in Mexico, I think this past week or last week. So I hope you enjoy that one too.